Welcome back to another episode of the Autonomy Pods. Today is a solo episode for me. We just actually released Beth's on this day today. So that is the 3rd of June when I'm recording this. Today I want to speak about body image and the acceptance of your body image as a fundamental part, mostly aimed at coaches. Because I think for the most part, it's one of the only industries in which you're judged based on your appearance for the most part. Like, you don't go into an accountant's office and ask them to see their bank account. You don't go into, I don't know, you just don't go into these like solicitors and say, okay, show me the best deal that you've done or whatever it is. You don't judge them based on their bodies or the way that they look. And I think for the most part, it's a false fallacy in itself. And obviously the best trainers aren't the most leanest and the worst trainers aren't the biggest in terms of body fat percentage. But we have this reoccurring fundamental flaw within our thinking because we get judged on these factors. And that will also then play out in clients too. And when they are in amazing shape and the quest for more and the whole diet culture, it really does become a bit of a fuckery of the way that we think about our bodies. And I read a little book yesterday, and it was talking about how, we think about food and body image over 200 times a day on average. And like, I don't know if you've been ever in the scenario, but I've definitely been in the scenario where you're body checking, you're walking past the mirror and you just check to see how the way that you look, or every time you go into a mirror, you focus on a specific body part that you have. And maybe most of it's negative. You don't go, wow, look at my cheekbones. It's more like, oh, wow, there's fat left on that belly. Or, oh, look at the love handle, or, oh, I don't look pretty, or whatever it is. There's always a negative connotation that's going along, like subconsciously, which sucks really for the most part, because, we're subconsciously telling ourselves that we're not good enough all of the time, when actually there's nothing really wrong with you. It's just something that you would probably want better. And maybe that's from a subconscious perspective, or because you think that that's going to validate whatever you're doing at this moment in time. So I want to just talk on acceptance and my own journey in acceptance too, because I feel like, you have to, everyone's on that journey somewhere, on the spectrum of like super self-conscious all the way to I don't give a fuck what I think or what other people think about me type of zone. And you have to, it's one in which it normally relates back to your own struggles and the things that you hate about yourself, or the way that you deem worth. For me, my identity and the way that I looked all started when I really started in the industry about 10 years ago. And before that, I always struggled. I was a fat kid. Never really, always tried to get in shape because, doing loads of dieting, but, the pack of biscuits that I was eating didn't really help. And the knee issue that I had meant I couldn't do much activity. So, cue a lot of aggressive weight gain because all I was doing is eating more and moving less. And I came into this industry wanting to just help people, very similar to myself, or from an injury perspective too, because I worked in rehabilitation for a while. And then I came into a culture, shall we say, of, results over everything, and, camaraderie, and like being like this presence in the gym. It was very much instead of, you being you, it was more you had to act a certain way, or you felt like you had to act a certain way because of the culture, which was, like I said, there was lots of positives of that culture. It made me improve to the person I am today, it made me an amazing coach, but it also left me with this identity that, I had to be more. I had to look a certain way to be respected. I had to get as lean as I could to be respected. And then, my validity of the way that I looked was also wrapped up in the results I was getting with my clients as well. So it was all like this fuckery of self-worth wasn't actually in myself. It was in my body, in the way it looked, as well as the results I was getting with my clients. And I think for the most part, even clients who come on board, they don't subconsciously recognize that they're doing it. But, I've had a few people that say, oh, you don't look like or you didn't, when I first started lifting and whatever, like, you don't look like a PT. Like, well, what does a PT look like? And then they'll, give you an example of like the jack dude, or the guy with the six pack, or the girl with the really big bum and lean midsection. They're a PT. Oh, because like I thought that the PT stuff was the thing was between your head, the knowledge to be able to get people in shape. And whilst there is an element, and like I still preach and practice, you being on your own journey as a coach to be able to progress forwards in your own journey, your own headspace, your own development, your own training, your own nutrition, so you can be a better version of yourself all of the time. There isn't a direct correlation between those that are in better shape and those that are a better personal trainer or better online trainer. There are commonalities between the two that share some validity, but it's not direct, straight. But that's the problem, is that that's where the false thinking is. And like, even when I came over to Dubai 2 or 3 months ago, I was thinking, oh, shall I diet? Shall I diet for this, for Dubai? And I was like, I could, in my head, I'm envisioning over and over and over again the moment that I'm sitting in zero gravity or I'm sitting in Barasti and a nice little chica comes over and says, oh, no, what do you do? And I'm there with my top off going, I run a small online coaching business. And she goes, you run a fitness business? And that's what kept going on in my head, because I was thinking, that's what my value was tied up in. My value was tied up in, if someone came over, nice little chica came over and said, oh, yeah, what do you do? I'd have to justify it by looking a certain way. And that didn't sit well with me for a while, because that's probably it led me down to a path of questioning, well, what do I deem as success, or what do I deem as like what I want, as opposed to what someone else thought. Like, I'm pretty happy with the way that I look. Like, sure, you could be always leaner. Sure, I could always be fatter. Sure, I could always be bigger. Sure, I could always be leaner. Even I could have veins everywhere. I could be, massive. But that doesn't really appeal to me that much, to the level that I'm willing to go and sacrifice everything for it. I like to be able to enjoy a acai bowl and be able to, go out at the weekends and be able to, eat some decent food without thinking like, as a 70 kilo dude or 72 or 3 kilo dude with low activity because of his knee, you're going to have to eat relatively low calories to get lean. And I just don't want to do that every day. So, the wrapped up nature of that self-worth and not wanting to say to this little chica, oh, I run an online fitness business, really gave me this like insight into my flawed methodology within my head, that my flawed limiting belief that I thought that I'd have to diet to prove that I had a small business, fitness coaching business, to other people who would ask me. And then that would impress them because I was in shape as well as having this small business. Whereas maybe that girl would have been impressed anyway. Maybe she would have not been impressed at all. Maybe she was accustomed to dealing with billionaires or millionaires. Maybe that's what she was looking for. Or maybe she just used that as the first initial question to ask me more about myself. But my perception is that if I say that, that isn't going to be good enough. And that's the body image issue, or the body acceptance that a lot of people will have to go through, especially as coaches, to understand that they are different to their body, but also they're different to their self-worth. You're wrapped up, or your six pack isn't your everything. It's a part of you. It's like your business is part of you, or your relationships are part of you, or your learning is part of you, or your body is part of you. They're all parts. Spirituality is part of you, not the full sum. But when it becomes the full sum, then obviously that factor becomes too heavy to really not care. And because those external metrics are so volatile and they change with you wanting to perceive as be a certain way to a certain individual, or it changes because the environment gets you that way, it often leaves you in a bit of a sticky situation. So I did some digging after this happened. And I was looking at myself butt naked in the mirror after reading this book. It was about mindful eating, but it talked about body image. And looking at myself butt naked in the mirror going, how do you really think you look? And I was happy. Like, I like the way my shoulders look. I think I got a cute face. But sometimes when I don't have fucking spots, I think that my arms look great sometimes. But they're improving anyway. My chest is fine. Midsection probably could be leaner, but then at the same time, it's like, it's an acceptable level, in my opinion. Like, it's fine. Do I like it when I bend forwards and roll over and see the rolls? No. But I also I think that's a limiting belief too, that we shouldn't have roles when we should. It's fundamentally a flaw in my thinking. So I'm looking myself in the mirror going, like, what are you complaining about? Like, why would you need to change this for someone else? And it's all a learned behavior. Because if I can be comfortable taking my top off because I think I'm comfortable taking my top off, and I can accept that the way that I look, it would be I would only be dieting, or I would only be changing my body composition for someone else's approval. And for me, I can definitely speak on my thing, is that I always want to impress ladies. Always. Like, if you're in the if you're in the mixer, if you're in the mixer for like a lady friend, or in the mixer for a relationship, and that's a high enough value and a priority for you, then sure, there will be that headspace of being like, maybe I'll fix up a little so that you can impress, yada yada yada. But that's a learned behavior too, because really the people that you want to spend your rest of your life with, and this is me telling me this now, is that the people that you want to spend the rest of your life with will get to know all of you, not just the how well you look. And if someone only cares about that specific part of you, we spoke about this on the fitness podcast actually as well, is that if they only want that specific part of you, and that's a condition, or like, I see it on so many times on Tinder. Ladies are like, only want only want professional guys over 181 centimeters, who take good care of themselves. And it's like, that's cool, but what about if like a guy was 175, he took not great care of himself, but was a fucking great person? Like, why is that your cutoff? And I think we see that as guys, and I think, we get shamed into this slightly by the movement of femininity or feminism, to be like, you can't have like saying like, I like this, or I like that, I like this, or I want these standards, because it looks douchey from a guy side of things. If you're like, I only want a girl that's 4 foot, less than 5 foot, who's got great job and big boobs. You can't say that. But if a lady goes on Tinder and goes, I want a guy over 181, and it's perfectly acceptable to see that. I think as us guys, we're subliminally seen as, fuck, like, if I don't hit these standards, then I'm never gonna get the girls like that. And that's exactly how I felt. And it's fucking, all you got to do is change your location to Dubai on Tinder, and all you got to do is change your location to wanting, if you're a lady watching this, you guys got to change your location to Tinder, to liking females, and all you got to see is these standards that are omnipresent with the physical look that will be thought about. And I think, like we spoke about, physical attraction is actually really, really important. Like, I ended my last relationship because I wasn't physically attracted to that lady in the way that I thought I should have been. But it isn't the whole bread and butter, is it? Like, just because you're 181 or 180 or 179 centimeters doesn't change much about you as a person. But I think it is conditioning us to think that we have to change the way that we look, or improve the way that we look, or have a great body, or have these things to be accepted by other people, when actually maybe the other person just needs to do some accepting, and maybe they're the wrong person that you're trying to influence, and the right person will come along who will take you for you as a whole. And it's the same as clients. It's like, I'm gonna get in great shape so that my clients can, I get and attract more clients. Your clients are going to come for what's in it for them, not what you look like. Like, so sure, some people that will be super superficial, they'll think, okay, I'm going to be with the best looking trainer who's got the most amount of muscle, because that's what I want as a trainer. I could probably argue and say they're not the ones that get results. They're not the ones that are changing lives, or equally arguably, they're not the ones that need you. You need the people that are on the last leg, on their last try of getting in shape, because they've tried so many times before. And I think the acceptance of where you are in this space and time is quite important when it comes to being content and then, not forever chasing this visual goals. Because at some point, if you looked yourself in the mirror butt naked and you were happy with the way that you look, or you were content with the way that you look, with acknowledging that it could be better, or you could progress it further, or you could be worse, and then you get these feelings of wanting to change, then you know that that's just a signal or a trigger from your subconscious to maybe you're feeling like you're not good enough, or that you're feeling like you want to look a certain way for someone else. And there could be some great triggers and some great awareness strategies for you to kind of hold on to. If you feel like, oh, I need to do this for this, or I need to diet for this person, or I need to look a bit better to go and attract this, then maybe that's an easy way for you to kind of pull back in line per se. And I don't really have the answer. I guess there is no answer. Everyone's on their own journey of like body acceptance. But I can definitely talk on that feeling, that pressure to fit in and look a certain way, not only from an identity of a business perspective, but or like feeling a certain way to be in the industry, but definitely from a looking in for, relationships, and looking in from looking a certain, feeling like you have to look a certain way to fit the mold or the criteria of other people on these dating apps, which is incredibly difficult to not focus on, considering you see it so often if you're on there. But I think for ladies as well, it's a really difficult task to accept, and almost they have a much harder job of accepting the way that they look than probably guys do. The magazines have funneled down so hard on what a perfect body will look like, or how they should look on holiday, or how they should be based on whatever they've put into the magazines. But not only that, I think from a perspective of if you see your body change over a month's period due to the menstrual cycle, and you see these different parts of your body change, whether 1 week you're super bloated, and 1 week you're elated with the training progress that you've made, then the next week you're back to feeling deflated, or you're in pain, or whatever it is. It can be a lot harder to accept that as normal, or accept that as I imagine. Like, I can't say that I've ever had a menstrual cycle, but I have been in pain a lot, and it's very, very hard. Like, I probably still haven't accepted it, is with my knee, is that I'm very much limited by this particular thing. And sometimes I either go above and beyond to say fuck you to it, and then it puts me in a worse position overall, or I project the void and I don't do anything with it, because I also want to avoid it and avoid any type of pain or any interaction with it. Whereas acceptance is about seeing both sides of the coin and being able to see what it is at this moment in time. And I think that ladies, you probably have a really tough job of doing that for the most part. And it takes a lot of work and a lot of trial and error. I know that for the most part, like some people, they track their menstrual cycle, they track those variables, and that can help you ease that acceptance, because it's coming, and you can see the data, and you can see that this is what it is, this is my physiology. But I can imagine people in the Gen Pop world who have no clue. They just know that they've had a menstrual cycle since they were 14 or 15. They get no formal education about it per se, and they're just now sitting in their 30s just dealing with this monthly, and still every single month comes around, they're like, fuck, I'm bloated, I feel like shit. You look in the mirror, fuck, I'm been dieting hard, and then now it's fucking gone, and then they don't understand all of the physiological mechanisms. That could be really, really hard from an acceptance point of view, when you don't truly understand the mechanics of what is happening. And then when you're leading into that, and as well as all of the other body images of what should happen, or what should be around, what you should look like, or how you should look in the dress, or how you should act in these scenarios, or it can be incredibly difficult. I don't think either or, male or female, have it hard or worse, but there's definitely a consideration for investing some time into acceptance of where you are in this space and time, and it'll probably stop you from thinking about wanting to do something you actually don't want to do, and go down the rabbit hole of doing that. So Monday comes and you're like, oh, I need to diet. It's only 3 weeks until I go to Ibiza. Or oh fuck, it's the British summer now, so I'm gonna go and get lean so we can go to the beer gardens and wear a nice little crop top or whatever it is. And then you get 2 weeks in and you're just not doing it. And then but then you could sit down with yourself and just have that butt naked chat with yourself in the mirror and say, am I happy with the way that I look? You know, am I so disappointed with the way that I look I want to change? Or am I in such a position of where I'm grateful for some of the things I have in front of me and I like certain parts of me, so therefore it's nice to appreciate them. And I guarantee if you do something like that, at least for me anyway, it changed my perception on the way that I looked and the way that I looked at it. I did a lot less body checking in the mirrors because I looked at myself dead and butt naked in the morning and was like, I like this. I like this. I don't particularly favor that, but I like this and I like that, and I maybe don't like this part, and that's okay. Or maybe like that can't change, so that's okay. My height, I'm 5'5". I wish I was at least 5'10", but that's not going to change. So I got to accept it. And then you do less body checking in the day because you're maybe confident or you're sure of what you have and what you accepted, that you need to check less for reassurance, and that might help massively. But it's an ongoing game of finding the ability for you to know your own voice of what you like and what you want. Like when I was first exposed to like fucking awareness and my feelings and thoughts and emotions, like I'd realized I'd been blind for so long, and my king detachment is fantastic in some spaces. I detach from scenarios very, very quickly, and I can leave emotional relationships in a beat of a hat. But I also can detach away from positivity and elation and contentment because of the detachment that comes from that. But when I started getting more, I guess, more plugins of input of like the sounds that I was hearing from my thoughts or my feelings or my physical sensations, and getting in tune with those things allowed me to really start thinking about what it is that I like and what I enjoy, what I want, and what I'm content with and what I'm happy with, and how I think about certain scenarios, not that I'm affected by other people. And I think that's a very, very useful tool to start on the journey of. It's one in which will probably it never ends. It's an infinite game of increasing your awareness and increasing your level of touch points with yourself, and a lot more. It poses a greater relationship for yourself as opposed to we're focused on relationships with other people. We're focused on relationships with our work, business, life. But what about the relationship with oneself? Like, can you sit there in a darkened room on your own? Because that's one of the quote. A quote is like, obviously, one of man's biggest problems is that he can't sit in a room by himself, and I can attest to that. Like, if you have never had a good relationship with yourself, or you've always like done the whole body shaming, or you've always like felt guilty for not being in the shape that you want, or your identity was wrapped up in this body that you've not got, or you're always saying, oh, you're shit, or you're not worth shit, or not good enough, or your fear of failure, so you're anxious around it, they're all going to bring this like negativity towards that the relationship with yourself. And until that kind of is worked upon and it's guided upon, it will be always quite a difficult task to have a positive relationship with it until you figure those things out. And if you haven't got that relationship with yourself and you feel like, you know, you can't sit in a room on your own, or you couldn't have time on your own, like with your own thoughts or with your own feelings, and you kind of reach out for other things because of that, whether that's food, or every time you're alone you start swiping on Tinder, or when you're alone you have to put music on because you don't like the feeling of being alone, or you get anxious or uncertain all of the time. There are times to, or like you are looking in the past and looking like from a depressive mindset of like trying to wanting to change different outcomes, or looking too far in the future. Whatever those things are, I think we've got to look at your relationship with yourself, where like the acceptance really starts. So from a body compositional perspective, the acceptance is key, but it may highlight to you, if you listen to this and you may be like, oh well, I don't have that, or I don't have any type of, I haven't done any work on myself to do that. Maybe it just highlights the importance of that particular work that you need to do, or start that work and I'll go on that journey. Because it's always a useful one. I mean, you've got you for the rest of your life, so why not make that as best as possible, or make it your best friend. So understanding you and understanding what you like is going to lead you down a position where you're not making, you're not getting 6 months down into a relationship that you're like, fuck, I only got into a relationship to be comforted or get rid of my loneliness, but I actually don't like this dude. Or equally, you buy something like a fucking new Lamborghini because you're overcompensating somewhere in your own headspace. It saves you a lot of money, saves you a lot of heartache, and that saves you a lot of wrong mistakes. When you can when you can sit back and say, I made this decision out of contentment, or I made this decision out of certainty, as opposed to I made this decision out of uncertainty, anxiety, overcompensation, or wanting to get that buzz. I think that's going to be an essential part of when you look back in the long life decisions that you make. Some of them might be amazing. You may have confirmation. I have loads of confirmation bias from my year of traveling in 2019, where I would say that most of it was based on the relevancy of uncertainty in my life, and I thrived off it. And every single week I'd be like, oh my God, where am I going next? Boom, boom, boom. Travel. Week next. 52 cities in 52 weeks. Yeah, look at me. I was fucked. But I did it based off uncertainty and wanting to get that next high. And that cost me. I got to go to all of these beautiful places, but if I look back and I was like, did I really enjoy those places, or could I could show you a picture of those places, but could I feel it? Could I give you a rundown of those specific some of the specific cities that I went to and what I specifically did there? I couldn't, because I wasn't aware. I was always in the present, in the future. I was always in the future, sorry, not the present. And when we start looking at that, and maybe this is a rabbit hole for another podcast, but when we start looking at making decisions out of the contentment and uncertainty, as opposed to uncertainty, anxiety, fearfulness, and impulsive natures, we start probably regretting less and living more. But it's only when you realize that you're running from that impulsive nature. Like for me, it's impulsive nature, and a good friend, Nicola, who we speak often about, we're basically carbon copies of each other, and we always do some impulsive natures. But we can honestly say that most of our best decisions have probably not come from the impulsive nature. Like the impulsive nature is all fine and fun, and like you get to go on holiday, you maybe book a little bit of this and a little bit of that, maybe you buy some new stuff, and that's all well and good. And if it's not costing you an arm and a leg, go for it. But for the larger decisions in life, the ones that are really important, that coming from a place of certainty and purpose and the present, will probably lead to a better level of acceptance with less ramifications in the long term. But anyway, I'm going down a rabbit hole now, and just nailing off those thoughts. But apart from that, look, guys, if you have a slight problem, or you have any type of insecurities around the way that you look, and you feel like there's always that battle for accepting the way that you look, or always wanting more and more and more, whether it's more diet, leaner, or you feel like there's a wrapped up identity within you being a personal trainer or an online trainer, and then you're saying that you need to look a certain way to impress other people, then have a look at just standing butt naked in front of the mirror and looking at the way that you look, and pointing out both the positive things that you like and some things that you enjoy about yourself, and then looking at the things that you would like to change. And then if you would like to change them, think about how important that is to you. So is it really important that I get rid of my love handles? What's the benefits? What's the cons? Could I look better, maybe feel more confident, but I don't want to diet, and I don't want to restrict myself in social events, and I don't want to be moody or grumpy, then okay, then you probably don't want to do it. And that's okay. But once you make that pros and cons list to see if it's worth it, that'll be coming from a place of certainty, as opposed to just like fearfulness of looking in the mirror going, oh, I need to diet now. And that's not going to be positive for anybody, because you'll just go around in that perpetual cycle of trying but failing. So guys, stand in front of the mirrors butt naked, and see how that goes. Bye.